voice doesn't carry super well, but like Tim said, my name is Nate. I make art and do projector mapping under the moniker Ethnograph. And to my left is Lila Rhodes, who's a super talented singer-songwriter, artist in like 7 bands. She's always performing. And PMC, who's right next to her, he's an awesome producer, makes a lot of electronic beats. And so I wanted to start off with a performance with this group because this is my newest project that, in collaboration that I'm working with these 2 artists to create music and light and visuals sort of in tandem. So it's not like one's created without the other. It's meant to be created together. And so, yeah, I'll turn it over to them. And there's going to be flashing lights. If anyone is like epileptic, you might want to leave for like 7 minutes. Cool, yeah, so that was Lila Rose, PMC. One more round of applause for those guys. Cool, so I'm Ethnograph. That, like I said, is one of my newest projects I'm working on as a collaboration with those two guys. It's a combination of sound reactive stuff as well as stuff that has been pre-programmed. Oh, wait.
Sorry, that was something. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're building a set for this show. The idea is I want to put a screen in front of myself and in front of PMC and have Lila Rose do her thing because I want to be hidden. And we're building this set and we're going to do shows, a few festivals like Currency Media Festival in Santa Fe, lots of shows at Sister. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So in case you guys aren't familiar with projector mapping, basically what it is and what I do is I cast light onto geometric shapes, whether it's a building or something that I built myself out of wood, plastic, whatever. And I essentially shine light very, very precisely on areas of this geometry in order to create optical illusions or to accompany a show or do anything like that. And I'll show you some examples here, because really, you're not going to understand projector mapping unless you see it. At least I didn't. I had no idea what it was. And so I'm just going to run through some examples. Let me see. Okay, can you guys see that right now? So what that is that's a cathedral in Europe. And so this is just an example of projector mapping really quickly. And so all the light you're seeing is just from a projector. There's no stage lighting, there's no light bulbs or anything like that. And you'll notice that they're able to put light behind that sort of balcony thing. They're able to highlight the ceilings, the arches, and essentially really do whatever they want with it. And so I like this example because it really shows you the optical illusions you can create with shadows and depth and give a false sense of movement towards it. And then here is a building also in Europe. As an example of what you can do with buildings. And so it can be anything from these huge, large-scale, massive projections. So like this building took, I believe it was 4 40K projectors. So that's 40,000 lumens, 4 of them. To give you guys like a ballpark, that's probably around $500,000 worth of projectors to light up this building. And so, you know, it's kind of hard to get people to shell out that kind of money to do these shows unless, you know, you have the backing of like a huge studio. And so I thought, like, why can't I do this? And then I just started working towards it. And so yeah, so this is another example of large-scale projectors. And then this next example is actually the project that got me into projector mapping. And so, if you can't tell what it is, it's a corner of a room, and all these black lines are just markers. So this guy drew this mountain range on a flat wall, and all that sort of false sense of depth and shadows that you're seeing is, again, all from a projector. Like, it's just tricking your brain into thinking that goes in. And so this project was based off of the erupting volcano out of Iceland. And this guy is based out of Belgium. My hero, like, all of his stuff is super dope. I got the chance to talk to him briefly over Instagram because he saw one of my projects. And really nice guy, but yeah, that's the video that got me super into it. And so, and when I say into it, what I mean is projector mapping and doing shows. And so, the type of shows that I do are, well, it's a variety of stuff. So I do a lot of shows at El Rey Theater, Sister Bar, like Launchpad, Birds, Sunshine, pretty much all the venues here. So if any of you guys go to electronic shows at El Rey at all, chances are you've seen my stuff. Like some of the people I've worked with are like, that you guys might know are like Odessa, Wolfgang Gartner, Carnage, Nightmare, Cashmere Cat, Toki Monster, Gaslamp Killer, Astronautica, Illenium, and there's a bunch more. And this summer I'll be doing a festival with Solange, Skrillex, Tycho, and Thundercat, and a few other people. And so my point is, by mentioning those names, is like these are a lot of artists that like I really admired for a long time, and I was like I would kill to work with them. And I never thought I'd be able to do shows with any of those people. But just getting into projector mapping and animation and this kind of thing, I actually was able to. And so I always say it's like more people need to get into it, because like if I can, you know, do it and work with these people, then honestly anyone can, and it's not that hard to get into. And so yeah, so projector mapping, animation, 3D animation is how I got sort of known to do shows around town and stuff like that. And so I'm going to show you guys a couple examples of my projector mapping projects. So I don't know if anybody here went to the Silent Lights show that was on the Humanities building. So it was a huge silent disco. And I got to project on the Humanities building, which I'm sure you guys have all seen, on all of the geometry. And so UCAM, I used to work for UCAM, and they knew they wanted to project onto a building, and they asked me which one, and I said, hands down, it has to be the Humanities building. And so here's like a little video in case you guys missed it. All right, let me put sound out. Okay, so you guys won't have sound, but you'll see it at least.
Just make it to the TA.
Okay, so that was the Humanities project I did. It was a ton of fun. I honestly can't believe that they let me get away with that. And so that was, up until now, that's the largest scale projector mapping I've done. And it was a ton of fun. Like, I'm really grateful that UNM allowed me to do that. And then I'm sure Tim has talked about Logoscape at the airport, which is a 3D projector mapped object right as you land. And it's sort of to showcase UNM, and so there's a lot of footage of UNM students. And I was lucky enough to get brought on because I did 3D animation, so I was able to animate to the shape and have fun with it. And so I'm going to show you guys this little clip. So this is when I was testing. This is at Hotel Andaluz. And so this was for our New Year's Eve party. These are just little videos of the testing I was doing. And what I did is I used 4 projectors all on the balcony, all shooting down. And they actually also did a silent disco. For some reason, that really caught on after the Humanities show. So most of the stuff that I do for shows is all sound reactive or is live generated. Because I want to get more into stuff that actually is interactive and reactive to the environment, whatever environment you're in. And so what that leads me to is, after I got into projector mapping, and I got to do all these performances with, all these cool artists. I got to work with Meow Wolves. I got to work with, TEDx, Dual Brewing, Effects, a lot of places. But after a while I got bored and I wanted to do interactive things. so stuff that you were able to actually play with. And so I started toying around with the idea of how do I get, crowds to, in these massive venues to have an intimate experience with whatever art I'm trying to put on. And I haven't gotten to crowds yet, but this is a video of a processing patch that I actually got to work with another student who was also at the arts lab named Katie. And so her and I wrote this processing patch that's interactive. And so this is a touch screen, all controlled by a Kinect. And so essentially, as soon as you touch onto the screen, the Kinect's able to pick you up and you're able to manipulate, in this case, these orbs. And so that was for an event at Free Range, which is actually right across the street from the Arts Lab, which is a new workspace. And then this one is one that I did for the Hispano Chamber Gala event. So it's a big black tie event, and they wanted something also touchscreen. So this is just, you touch this wall, this lycra wall, and you're able to reveal images behind it, whatever it is, videos, pictures, anything. And let's see here. Here is an example. Hopefully it's not too loud. Oh, there we go. Anyway, this is at Sister Bar. And so, I don't know if any of you guys are 21 or have been to Sister. So I have a bi-monthly show there called Shrimp Night. And it's a ton of fun. So that is one of the artists I work with a lot called Rainbow. And that's projections on a corrugated plastic that you can mold and create shapes out of. And then here's like another example of that same plastic with a projector. And so all of these installations are all interactive and reactive to music. And it's cool, and so as more and more I got into this, I started getting approached by a lot of different people. And so now, thanks to my shows at Sister, I'm now sponsored by Red Bull Music Academy. So they flew me out to Phoenix, I got to do shows at a few festivals out there, and that was a ton of fun. Like, they were super supportive of young artists, especially in fields that not a lot of people tend to gravitate towards. I don't know why, it's a ton of fun. But an awesome organization to work with, and they're really, really alert with young people who are trying to push the envelope. And so they're really awesome. I can't thank them enough for what they've done. And so a lot of the time people ask me like how I started or got into animation and projector mapping. And it honestly goes back to when I was young, I was obsessed with video games. And so I would play all day and night, just like Gears of War, all kinds of Halo, Call of Duty, and like I just loved being in someone else's world. And so I think that, the love of that, and coupled with the fact that I had always wanted to be an artist, and I was a horrible painter, a horrible drawer. I failed miserably at both. And every time I tried, I would just get frustrated and I would want to quit. And so I got into computer graphics, and I was able to get a crack of a software called Cinema 4D, and I just went on YouTube and other tutorial sites, and I just fell in love with it. And so some of my Cinema 4D work, some of my early stuff, it's just weird graphics, kind of like this, that I would just post to Instagram, and I don't know, see if people liked them, and I was just having fun making worlds that, what drove me to go into painting and drawing was the fact that I could create something from scratch. And, unlike photography or film, where you're documenting or you're capturing a space around you, not that you can't create something from scratch, but I wanted everything from the floor up to be out of my own mind. And so when I got into this Cinema 4D rendering, all this kind of stuff, it was a natural fit. And just posting stuff to Instagram was able to get me lots of clients. For instance, this I did for a client out in Canada, for like this urban shop. So it's a lot of weird stuff. All 3D, all made in this Cinema 4D software. Somewhat like Maya. I I like Cinema 4D better, but mine's also a good software where you can do all the same stuff with it as well, and I know UNM offers a Maya class. This is actually some artwork I did for Lila and PMC for their upcoming release. And this one I had just seen the movie Arrival. I thought it was super awesome. And yeah, just like weird worlds that I wanted to make. And yeah, so my Instagram is what got me noticed and got me my foot in the door to do shows, to start at El Rey, and really boost my portfolio that way. And so now what I'm doing, aside from the shows, is I actually am part of a local production studio here called Concept Flux. And so what we do is same projector mapping, interactive installations, as well as like high-end video content, video work. And here I'll show you guys an example of something we did. Here's one that we did, part of my studio, Concept Flux, that we did for Holly Holm. After she beat Ronda Rousey, but before she lost again, like right away. And then here's one more so I know I mentioned the Hispano Chamber of Commerce event. So this is another video that my company produced for the event. Actually, let's see.
You know, never in my life I'd ever thought that I would spend a chapter of it in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
When I ask something of the city, the answer is always yes. And as long as I'm giving back to the community in some way, the yeses tend to keep coming.
One of the greatest things that we get to see is the amazing talent that we have right here in our own backyard.
Albuquerque breeds a certain kind of person, especially a compassionate kind. We've been through a lot and we're tough, and we know that we need to support each other in order to keep on going.
You know, I'm at an age now where I guess you could call me retired. And I've heard so many of my peers say, oh, what am I going to do when I retire? But I never get tired. We have a long, deep, rich, colorful history here.
We come here to be pioneers, to make this state better, and they really believe in the mission of our city, our center, and our people.
People in Albuquerque and New Mexico are very passionate about making our community even better than it is today.
There's just all of these amazing people to meet. That's, I think, where the heart of the city is, with the people.
The opportunity to be a true agent of change is afforded to you here in the city.
Albuquerque, Pulque, like we love to call it. It's a good place to come home. But it isn't why they stay. Why they stay is they begin to realize the heart inside the people. They start to hear the language. They smell the food. They smell the beach. They start to taste it. They learn to cook it. They start to understand the jokes.
Yeah, so the theme was Albuquerque, if you couldn't tell. And it was a ton of fun, shooting everything and getting to be a part of that event. And so the reason I like to show that video is because, one, I like it from Albuquerque, and two, it's an example of how organizations in this city can be really supportive of entrepreneurs, of artists, and they really want to see people from Albuquerque, succeed and make a name for ourselves. And so they've given me a lot of opportunity to do work for them, and a ton of things, as well as Arts Lab. Through Arts Lab I got to work with TEDx. I got to develop relationships there, and so I'm doing the stage design for the main event next year with another artist. And so it's been great. I mean, just trying to take advantage of all the opportunities that I've been given. And then so, last thing is, I know I mentioned about shows that I have at Sister Bar called Shrimp Night. It's a ton of fun. You guys should definitely check it out if you guys are 21. If not, just borrow an ID or something. It's bi-monthly, and I'm part of this artist collective called Nothing Forever. It's myself, Ethnograph, as the visual artist. Rainbow's one producer, BK Beats is another, and 1960 Sci-Fi Era is the last member. And we've become best friends, all of us. We've been able to do these shows. Red Bull got in touch with us, sponsored us, and then since then we've had some of our guys perform at Bonnaroo and a couple other festivals, and so far the momentum has been going. And so this next video is a video from one of our shows, one of our earlier shows as a Shrimp Night show. And so I'm projecting, it's a flat screen, so forgive me, but it's still pretty cool. So that was Shrimp Night, at least one of them. And even the song too is an original by one of the members in the collective. And their music, it's being experimental, electronic, is something that I've loved and what motivated me to push my art further. And I was super thankful to be a part of it. And so, upcoming projects I have is this one right here that you guys got to get a taste of. It's not complete yet. It's going to be a much bigger set, and so we're going to have that at some festivals and then doing some local shows as well. My next building is actually Chaco Hotel. I don't know if you guys have seen. It's being constructed on Rio Grande and close to the freeway. It's the first 5-star hotel in New Mexico, I think, or 4, I'm not sure. Anyway, the grand opening for that's May 22nd. It's open to the public. If you guys want to check it out, I'll be projecting on Hotel Albuquerque from Hotel Chaco. So you'll be able to see it from the interstate, and it'll be pretty big. Other than that, festivals I have coming up, I'm doing Arco Santi in Arizona. Middlelands in Texas, so I get to do work with a bunch of artists there, and yeah, I mean, it's been great. I highly recommend everyone gets into projector mapping. It's not that hard. There's a bit of a learning curve, but honestly, it's a ton of fun, and I think more people need to get into it, because right now I get all the business and I have no competition, so I need someone else to push me. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Is there any questions, or is anybody wondering something?
For the silent disco, the headphones, were those supplied by UNM?
No, we actually got those from, we got the Silent Disco headphones from a company called Silent Storm out of LA, I think.
You had a fun, that.
Yeah, UNM did.
That's awesome. Sweet.
So maybe Nate, you could talk a little bit about how, excuse me, how you think about like scales, like in terms of, well, what software do you use, and how do you think about, you know, projecting, say, in a bar versus projecting on a building?
So, mapping software and animation software, I use a few different kinds. Like right now, to run this, to run all these pictures and videos, I'm using Resolume, which is super awesome software. It allows you to do mapping and VJ shows. So, like, I use it to do shows at El Rey. I'll hook up into their LED board, and like I did the parade of lasers. So I was able to control BMX lasers and as well as the LED visual board all from my laptop. And so Resolume's a great software if you guys want to get into this kind of stuff. You can get a demo for free, and then if you know someone who knows how to crack software, just get a hold of them. And as far as scale goes, when I'm thinking about projecting on a large scale or a small scale, honestly the biggest factor and the biggest hurdle is budget. So for instance, to do the Chaco Hotel, which is the building, the projectors, we just purchased them, and I think the final total was around $75,000 for 2 projectors to be able to cover the building, and for it to be bright enough for people to really get, you know, a sense of the show, and it's not going to be dim and, you know, crappy. In a bar, you know, you can scale down a lot less on your projector, but there's just so many factors you have to take into account, like, for instance, how lit up is the bar? Are there any lights close to it, close to the wall or whatever the surface is you want to project on? Where can you mount a projector? If it has to be really far away, that means you need a stronger one or a longer lens. Or if the projector has to be really close, you need a wide angle lens. And so in terms of scale, the biggest issue, number one, is can these people afford it? And number two is taking everything in your environment into account to make sure that it's not going to come off faded or look like you tried to map onto something but didn't succeed. Yeah.
So if anybody's interested, I'm teaching a class in the fall that deals with projection mapping. So we've taught it, David and I, at Arts Lab, and so it's Monday morning, so shameless pitch.
Yeah.
So we'll probably bring Nate in so he can actually be a point of reference as well, so if you guys are all interested. But do you guys have any other questions for Nate?
Can you tell me a little bit more about like your process and like when you get a job, like as a visual artist, and you begin to sort of develop a project sort of final? Yeah.
Sure. So it depends. So for instance, if I get hired for a show at El Rey, to just do visuals and to just VJ, what I'll do is, depending on the artist, if they're a big name or a smaller name, I'll do custom animations for them, and so I'll end up making, you know, weird animations, you know, that kind of look like this kind of thing, and just manipulate the picture because everyone's dancing, no one's really paying that much attention, most people are drunk anyway. And so I'll make weird animations. Now for projector mapping onto building or different shapes, it's a lot more intensive. And so, you know, I have to take into account what exactly the shape is that I want to project onto and what can I do with it. Because, you know, you'll notice in these examples of projector mapping, like this building for instance, the absence of light is just as powerful as the presence of light. Like, you know, you'll get these false shadows and it looks like the building's coming out at you. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take pictures of the building or shape, whatever it is. I'll model that out in the 3D software, Cinema 4D. So I'll basically recreate it digitally, and then I'll manipulate it. So I'll make it explode, I'll poke holes in it, I'll change the geometry, I'll just do a lot of crazy stuff to this 3D model I have. And then when I go to render it, you have to render from the angle of your projector. So say your projector is straight onto the shape, building, whatever it is, then I'll render from that perspective. Or if I know my projector is going to be above it, I'll render from that perspective. And so the hardest part easily is figuring out what I want to do. Because, if it doesn't have meaning behind it, then it's just decoration. And so, for instance, for the Chaco project, I don't know a ton about the Chaco Canyon or the heritage or anything like that, but luckily I do know someone who is a lot more fluent in that than I am. And so he's been helping me put meaning behind the animations and to help develop a narrative for the building. And so the hardest part for me is coming up with ideas on what to do to whatever it is. So, first you take into account what this is for, whether it's a concert, then I can just be wild and be free and strobe a ton. Or if it's, more of a narrative story for a building that I know is going to be permanent, I'll take a lot more time trying to develop a narrative and put meaning behind these crazy lights and stuff like that.
Any other questions? How long does it take, say like Chaco, how long are you giving yourself to develop that content?
So it depends on how long the show is. For Chaco, it's going to be a 5-minute loop. So probably maybe like 30 to 40 hours hammering the narrative down of what exactly we want to happen on this building. How are we going to, pay respect to, the actual Chaco Canyon and the people of Chaco, and as well as have a marriage with, this new contemporary light, this new contemporary art form using light and shapes and geometry to create certain things. So, right now we're probably going to spend about 30 to 40 hours developing, hammering that narrative out. And then animations are actually the easier part, I think. Luckily I have someone helping me out. Amanda is actually right there. She's helping me on the Chaco project. And for that one, probably another 40, I would say, for actually developing animations, 40 hours. Mapping's not going to be too bad. Depending on how complicated the mapping is, like this probably took days to map out. Chaco will probably take me one night to map everything out. I mapped out the humanities building in a night, the night before. So mapping is actually a super fun, not super time-consuming part, because you actually get to see your content go on this building, the shapes and stuff like that.
Any other questions?
What's your dream project?
My dream project is to do something indoor cathedral, not dissimilar to that, out in Europe, because right now Europe is killing it. They have all kinds of projector mapping studios. People, out there, this is a thriving business, and it's just over the past 4 or 5 years has been introduced to the United States. And so my dream project would be to be flown out there by Red Bull or some studio and to do a project on a huge building out there. I don't really care where. I just want it to be big.
Can you give me some examples? I guess the one that I can think of is the Sydney Opera House. They
Yeah.
have some really good ones.
Yeah, the City Opera House does one a few times a year. Different studios map onto it. I know they've done, they want to do the Eiffel Tower, but right now there's one studio that wants to do it, but they're running into issues with, some bureaucracy. But there's one studio trying to do the Eiffel Tower. The City Opera House is another good one. I think the Guggenheim was mapped not too long ago. Buildings, to manipulate and to take something that you see every day, a building for instance, and to change it and so you see it in a new way that you've never thought of before is how I approach all my projects and what I try to do to all these things I project on.
Well, awesome. Yep, another question?
Have you done any projects in landscape or focused on the landscape itself?
Like mapping onto landscape? No. Well, so what I have done is I've mapped onto like sort of faces of boulders and rocks. And I've played around with the idea of mapping out the botanical gardens and trying to do like onto plant life and trees and stuff. Rocks are a lot easier. The problem, I guess it's not a problem, it's just the factor with that is that nature has so many more intricacies than this geometry does. And so, in a sense, what I would have to do to really map it and to take advantage of all of those nooks and crannies and whatever that's on there is to essentially scan it in 3 dimensions, bring that into my computer and manipulate that and then project that back onto it. So it's a lot more intensive of a process. I'm not against it. It's just hard to find clients that will pay what it's worth to do all that. And then the other factor is just, where, because I want it to be grand. I don't want to, project on small things. So it's like, where do I find a huge place that I can make this massive projector, on, whether it's the side of a cliff or anything like that. How do I get people there? How do I pay for this thing? So there's a lot that goes into it, but I guess to answer your question, I fooled around with it, but I haven't gotten into too deep with it.
Well, that's been awesome. Any last questions? Yep.
Do you have a mission for like Mexico? It seems like you're trying to, like you said, there's a scene in Europe. You're trying to like inject that into like our local scene.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool to see it like local events.
Yeah, and it's funny you asked that too because I got into it thinking that, because nobody else was, and I wanted it to take me out of Albuquerque and to take me out of New Mexico. But the more I got into it, Albuquerque embraced it, and I got a lot of work, doing a bunch of things in Albuquerque. And so going through the process of working with a bunch of artists here and a bunch of organizations that really supported me and supported this new art form has given me this attitude that, yeah, I do want to bring it and keep it here. Even if I don't say necessarily, like, I want this art form to be a part of Albuquerque, and I don't want to be the only person doing it. I want this to thrive here, and so, I want to support anyone who wants to do it, or, try it out, because, I just think there's, the possibilities are endless, and there's no reason Albuquerque shouldn't be pushing the envelope in this way. LA's barely getting into it, New York's barely getting into it, and so, we're in a position where there's this new emerging art form that's not incredibly mainstream yet. It's going to be, but I want Albuquerque to be right there in the forefront.
Any other questions? Would you guys be willing to close with one more song?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Well, let's give Veda one more round.
Yes.
Step back under attack, don't act like you can handle me. It's bad, but not as bad as an accident. And I've had a blast under his glass. Mama, his glass. Mama, well, my eyes shut, they shut close. We love, lights off. I shut, they shut close. We love, lights off. Lights off. Lights off. Lights on.